Hey guys, it's Ornlu, and hello, we finally have our September patch for AoE2 DE. Of course, it is happening in October, but that's okay. I'd rather the patch come out and not be filled with bugs, at least, hopefully not. But regardless, some of these changes we have seen from the pup build for September. I covered those in a previous video, but these are all now in the live game. If you want to play AoE2 DE, I'm sure you'll just, have your update game thing, and then you'll be good to go. So, for once, I actually did go through these changes first, so I can sort of hit the highlights for you guys and then not make this video drag on needlessly long. Which is, of course, always a plus. So, of course, they're going to start with their build spotlight for their October event. It is Halloween-themed, naturally. You get some new player icons. They're fine. You can do the things to get the things. Here's where the interesting stuff comes in. Stability and performance. A lot of these are fixing certain kinds of crashes. Now, I haven't experienced a lot of them, but one that I definitely noted was optimize the mod download process from the in-game mod center to allow for greatly improved download speeds, because it would take sometimes so long to download a mod, and yeah, hopefully that is now going to be fixed. Achievements, there was an issue with the sheep hoarder achievement and the 90 kilograms over 300 meters and anyone order pizza. Those are all now fixed, apparently. This is definitely what I noticed. The frequency of animal noises across all biomes is now lower. The volume levels for sounds relevant to desert biomes have been decreased to better match that of other biomes. In case you don't know what this means, essentially the random birds that would be flying around would be very, very loud and rather jarring. So the sound of that has been decreased, so good on them. There are some relevant UI changes, or fixes, or whatever. The Dawn of the Dukes DLC campaign selection screen now has an updated map background. I'll show you guys that one. So there were some gripes when Dawn of the Dukes came out because it just used this map from the European campaigns, whereas Lords of the West, they got their own fancy map. Why didn't Dawn of the Dukes? But now Dawn of the Dukes does have their own fancy map, and it does look very, very nice. Also, a change that you will see later, Jadwiga is now classified as a 3-sword campaign. So, much better reflecting the very high difficulty of the campaign. It was definitely harder than Jan Žižka. So now both Jan Žižka and Jadwiga are going to be 3 swords. Anyway, back to the notes. MVP badges in the post-game statistics screen are no longer awarded to more than one player in the same team. That's definitely a bug I've seen from time to time, so not everybody can be a winner of those MVP badges. Sorry, no kindergarten soccer rules here. Next, we have building armor is now displayed for building foundations. So normally, the armor for building foundations is the same as the completed building, but now, when you are building the building, you can see the armor as well, and that's just a nice little UI update. Also, it reflects, especially for Palisade Gates, no longer having any armor when you are constructing them, and that's a very relevant gameplay balance decision, I guess, because it prevents quick gating from being as strong. It is now possible to select and delete multiple saved game files at once, so you can normally do that if you just open the save game folder, but I guess now you can do it in-game. Sicilian tech tree is now correct. This is kind of a cool one, honestly. Pressing any letter on the keyboard in the civilization selection window automatically selects the first civilization starting with that letter. Pressing it again will cycle through until returning to the first option again. So, let me show that. So, in the civilization selection screen thing here, if I go to, B, I'll go to Bohemians, or Berbers. I'll go to Berbers because they come first alphabetically. But then I'll go to Bohemians, Britons, Bulgarians, Burgundians, Burmese, Byzantines, and then back to Berbers. So it's at least a little bit faster. Also, you can hit Enter, and that'll, super select the thing, and then you can enter again, and then you'll actually select the civ, so that is just a little bit faster and easier, so that's nice. The tech tree now displays appropriate war galley research cost and fireship demo ship tooltips. That's nice. It's no longer possible to overwrite an existing save file while the list of files is loading. Okay, sure. This is a nice one for people who don't have capture age. When spectating a game or viewing a recorded game, the research panel now remembers whether it had been enabled, disabled in the last game, and displays as such. It's enabled by default. So when you look at a replay, sometimes you wouldn't have the production tabs thing on the side. That would be disabled and you have to enable it every single time. So now you don't have to do that. No, that is not relevant for Capture Age, but it's still, you're not everyone has Capture Age, and even I don't always use Capture Age. When spectating a game or viewing a recorded game, the chat menu can now be open to view chat history. Oh boy, don't worry, it gets better, guys. We also have the ranked leaderboard screen now displays the proper amount of required games that still need to be played until the player is ranked in that selected mode. I think that's 10, right, for all of the different ranked ladders you can be a part of, but now that should be properly displayed, so that is going to be, I think, a little less confusing for people, which is always good. And here's the big one, guys. In-game chat is now visible to spectators. Oh man, that's so exciting! That's so exciting, guys! Yeah, I have been asking for this, and I'm not the only one. Lots and lots and lots of people have been asking for this for a very long time, so now we will have that. Huzzah! Just some small setting and hotkey changes, nothing too wild there. Some gameplay fixes. Villagers can no longer drop carried resources by garrisoning into Krepos. This was like a very minor balance thing, where normally villagers can only drop off resources when completing a drop-off point, whether that be a town center, mill, mining camp, lumber camp, or even a farm. You could do that with Kreposts too, so like you had a bunch of villagers, they were all gathering resources, you send them across the map to build a forward Krepost, and then building the Krepost, and like you can garrison the villagers inside it, and then like drop off all the resources for you. So now you can't do that. It's a very, very minor thing, but still worth mentioning. Multiple monks converting an enemy unit will now correctly lose all of their faith if theocracy hasn't been researched yet, which is the tech that allows, only one monk in a group to lose their faith when going for a conversion. So I guess this was a bit of a bug. I know I've seen some arena clowns complain about it, so hopefully that is now good. Sergeants no longer walk to building foundations other than donjons when villagers which are selected together with them were tasked to construct them. Okay, in case you guys ever struggled with that. And then the other are a couple of very minor scenario editor and 256 tech mode things. Oh boy, campaign changes! In fact, I think all of these changes are for Jadwiga. So I already showed you guys that the campaign's difficulty rating is now 3 swords, but there have been a bunch of minor tweaks and bug fixes. In Jadwiga 1, Opol's cavalry division is now on defensive stance, not stand ground, so you cannot pick them off one by one. Okay, that's just more of like a fixing an exploit. Opol now focuses on producing Obuk and crossbowmen, while Mazovia leans heavily towards knights. Okay, just changing up what they're making a little bit. War Galley is auto-research, can't build docks anyway. Fixed a bug where Vilnius wouldn't change hands properly. This was actually pretty relevant if you saw like my YouTube playthrough of it. Like you couldn't win because the city wouldn't change hands properly, so now that is fixed, thankfully. Then we have the player's starting troops are now respawned at gameplay start so that they're affected by upgrades, meaning that you can get your blacksmith upgrades for all of your starting troops, which is very nice. Then they nerfed the Vitautis AI slightly on hard, so I guess it's a little bit easier, and your heroes can be upgraded as intended. Now it's time to be sad, because in Jadwiga 4, the Defense of Vilnius scenario, Bombard Towers now have the intended increased stone cost of 300, so no Bombard Tower district in, Vilnius with 60-something Bombard Towers. But still, it's probably going to be worth going for, honestly. So you now get your starting resources once the Build and Destroy BND is Build and Destroy, begins preventing you from building a base with converted villagers. Again, it's just more of like an exploit. Added a timer to the opening so that you cannot cheese the mission by raiding the immobile Teutonic raiders. I did not know you could do that, but that's now fixed. The main Teutonic army now responds less to sighted enemies, making them harder to kite. Something I actually did see from like a couple other people is that you could debate the Teutonic army like really easy into like all of your defenses, so now that should be a little bit harder. Your Lithuanian allies no longer occasionally end up blocking city streets, good stuff. Added a trigger to force attacks for rare cases where the Teutons hang back for several minutes before they actually attacking the city. That is probably good. Vitautis no longer tries to rush the main Teuton camp. Oh yeah, I remember him doing that. Like they sent all of their units right into the meat grinder, so good, not happening. Added a trigger to keep Vitautis from getting stuck in the raider base after they are defeated. Did I encounter that? I'm not sure if I did, but good stuff. Vitautis now sends smaller initial attacks towards the raiders, probably just to make it a little bit more challenging. And this is definitely a big one. The main Teutonic army now gets upgrades with each wave, starting with the second one, because even in the very last wave, in the the original version, they'd only have Castle Age blacksmith upgrades. So this is going to be, a decent bit more of a challenge. The main Teutonic camp is now more difficult to assail. Okay, I want to see this. I know that there are like, maybe 50 people watching this who care, but I'm interested. These look exactly the same. Oh, maybe the siege onagers and hand cannons weren't there before? I don't know. This looks pretty similar to what I remember. Anyway, and the flag by the deserter is now removed after completing the side quest, just a minor visual thing. Jadwiga 5, the Crimean Tatars no longer delete their towers when defeated, meaning the Ruthenian villages can no longer be auto-liberated by taking out this player. So this was like one of the... I don't remember if it was a main objective or a side objective, but I remember there was an achievement in this scenario, and I replayed it, and I just took out the Crimean Tatars like instantly, and then I got like all of the villages right away, so now that is not a thing anymore. Then they just made a little bit of a timer thing with the wonder, and yeah, just making sure it syncs up better with the dialogue. The army spawn for the Golden Horde finale is now deactivated when the army starts disappearing off the map. This is probably to prevent like the game from slowing down or crashing, just because there are a bunch of units appearing and disappearing. And the troops around Temur for the finale are now correctly displayed as Tatars and not Italians. I never noticed this when playing, but that's pretty funny. And then in Jadwiga 6, the player no longer gets their name changed to Tatar mercenaries if those are the mercenaries they pick. That's kind of funny, to be honest. And then you can no longer cut your way to the finale area with onagers and other such things, aka trebuchets. I thought you couldn't do that before. I thought there were cliffs, but maybe I'm mistaken. Anyway, these are all nice little changes for Jadwiga. It's such a creative campaign, and that sort of necessitates that there are, a lot of little bugs when they initially launch it, so good that they're willing to make these sorts of changes post-launch. Then we have 2 new co-op campaigns available, Attila the Hun and Surya Varman I. I have already played through these on my YouTube channel, so just look at my most recent videos. Attila the Hun I played with T West, and Surya Varman I played with Debbie, both of which were pretty fun. Some of the scenarios I think were more engaging than the others when it came to providing a different experience from the single-player version. Like, the Walls of Constantinople was, like, way harder, which was pretty cool. And then the Battle of the Catalonian Fields was interesting because one of the players is Goths, of course. Same goes for challenging a thalassocracy because one of the players is Indians, so that whole sort of thing. I just recommend watching those videos or playing them for yourself. Anyway, now's the thing for, like, everyone's been waiting for, and it's like, Ornlu, come on. Let me just keep on skipping through the video to get here. But we are at the civilization balance changes. I talked about some of these in my PUP September video thing, but I didn't talk about all of them just because we didn't know all of them. There was no official page like this that are listing everything. So, Cannon Galleon Standard and Elite projectile speed increased from 1.95 to 3. So what does that mean? It means that the actual cannonballs fire faster. Let's actually see how this plays out. Alright, here's our visual representation of the Cannon Galleon change. It's noticeably faster for sure. I mean, it's not like every civ is now Spanish with their cannon galleons, but this is going to make cannon galleons a lot more effective, especially against other ships, because it's not going to be quite as easy to just dodge their projectiles constantly. And then versus buildings, it's going to be like a very slight improvement, but nothing too crazy. Of course, here's the big one. Longswordsman. Melee armor increased from 0 to 1. Same goes for two-handed swordsman. So now Longswordsman, two-handed swordsman, and also champions have 1 melee armor, 1 pierce armor. Champions are exactly the same as they've always been, but now Longswordsman and two-handed swordsman are getting a little bit tougher in the melee department, and this is pretty interesting because it's also going to stack with these other changes. Longswordsman tech cost decreased from 200 food to 150 food, and supplies decreased from 150 food and 100 gold to 75 of each. This is some big mid-game changes for the swordsman line. I don't know how this is going to impact everything in like the long run, just because this is such a drastic change. It doesn't change that, fundamentally knights and archers are both good against swordsmen, but I'll be really interested to see how this plays out. I think especially civs like Malians and Japanese and maybe Goths can really make more use of some longswordsmen in mid-game, which would definitely shake things up quite a bit. But yeah, we'll definitely have to see how this one plays out over the next several weeks and months. For Bulgarian's Krepost, this is mostly just a bug fix, honestly. The damage of the main arrow has been increased from 9 to 10, and the damage of the secondary arrows decreased from 11 to 10. Essentially, they're just sort of equalizing everything, making sure that all of the arrows do the same amount of damage for Krepost, which is kind of what it should be. Essentially, they used the castle secondary arrows, I believe, for Krepost previously, so they ended up doing a little bit more damage. This just makes it a little bit more consistent. Nothing too wild here, guys. Burgundian Vineyards no longer converts half of the food stockpile to gold, still enables farmers to generate a small trickle of gold. Great change! I didn't like that food converting to gold aspect of the tech whatsoever, because it made, situations where you want to get the tech to generate the gold, but then you don't want it because you don't want to lose all your food. So this is just going to make it a much more Age of Empires 2 feeling tech and not like an Age of Empires 3 tech or something like that. So just a more consistent, always positive benefit like most techs in the game. No, nothing has been done yet to Flemish Revolution. I don't know if anything ever will be, but it still exists as it is in the game. I don't like it, but, you know, gotta live with it. Portuguese, Feitoria, hit points decreased from 5,200 to 2,700. That is half HP. I think. No, it's slightly more than half HP. Ornlu math, that right there. This is definitely a pretty sizable nerf in terms of making Feitorias easier to snipe, which could be pretty relevant on, well, anytime you see Feitorias, which is mostly just closed maps and then water maps. It doesn't change that I think the Feitoria is just a fundamentally broken thing in the game, but at least it's now easier to deal with in late game, and it's not just, okay, the Portuguese player can just super easily camp around Feitorias because Feitorias have more HP than castles and wonders. Less armor, but still. You guys get the idea. Sicilians getting their team bonus changed again, but I like this one. Effect change to transport ships gain 5 line of sight and cost minus 50%. So you have, what, 67 wood transport ships or something like that? And they get extra 5 line of sight. That's huge, guys. Like, transport ships are gonna now have amazing line of sight as I knock my mic. So what that means is you can much more easily find good areas to land, which is kind of like one of the most important things when going for transport ships, going for landing plays on any water map, or even just on maps like Migration, going to the middle more easily. If you have a transport-related team bonus, it better be a good transport-related team bonus, right? Otherwise, it's like, okay, who cares? Because transport ships only come in on water maps, and even then, only on some water maps. But this is definitely a powerful bonus, but it's not, like, stupid and overpowered like the free transport ship one. So yeah, I like this one a lot more. And then finally we have Chatras, the Castle Age Vietnamese unique technology. No, paper money didn't get any changes. I'd like to see that, but again, you know, we can only wish and dream for now. Battle elephants now gain plus 100 HP, yeah, as opposed to plus 50 HP. This feels kind of pointless to me. This doesn't make battle elephants, like, better in situations where they weren't already great. Like, Vietnamese elephants were already plenty tanky. Now they're just, like, even more tanky. So they're better in the situations where they're already good, but this doesn't really help them in situations where they are not good, aka versus monks and halberdiers. I mean, okay, technically this is helpful versus halberdiers, but, like, especially, like, early, like, mid-game Castle Age, early to mid-Imperial Age, elephants for every civ except maybe Khmer are very difficult to get going, and this doesn't help at all. And it just makes them potentially even more overbearing when it comes to the super late game Vietnamese Doom army. I don't like this change. I feel like it's just, it doesn't do anything. It just feels kind of, yeah. Sorry, devs, you picked the wrong Vietnamese unique tech to change with this one, in my opinion. So those are all of the balance changes. Other than the last one, I think they're all good, which is, you know, pretty nice, honestly. I guess, well, I'm not too sure about the swordsman changes just yet, just because they're so drastic that we really do need to see how they play out. But as far as all the other ones, except the Vietnamese one, I think they're all good. You know, if not these sort of drastic changes that I think very specific things in the game need, like Flemish Revolution, at least they are changes I'd rather have than not have, again, with the exception of the last one. Still, random maps are going to be next. They added a bunch of maps to the map pool. These are all just Red Bull maps from, you know, previous Red Bull Wololo tournaments, so those will likely just be in the pool for Empire Wars. A couple little Empire Wars fixes as well. Here's the big one, Map Balance Arabia. Starting forests are now randomized between 3 forests in the back of every player's base, 2 in the back, 1 forward, or 1 in the back and 2 forward. I still don't like that it's the same for every player always. I guess that's a little bit more balanced, but I mean, come on, it's called random map, right? Gotta make do with what you get. And it's like, I don't like the idea that if you scout your own base, you then know what your opponent's base looks like. It kind of nerfs the whole point of scouting, right? I don't know. I don't like that idea behind where they're going with this, but I am glad that we're not having 3 forests in the back every single time. That's good. Fixed a rare issue where forest would sometime fail to generate. Okay, good. Non-standard numbers of players no longer cause missing forests. Good. The 3rd gold pile for each player in team games is no longer generated excessively far. Extra gold on larger map sizes now spawns in 3 tile groups as opposed to 2 tile ones, sure. And the number of predator animals has been restored to the original values, which is an increase compared to the previous version. Guys, they didn't have any predators, aka wolves, and now they have wolves again. So yeah, I mean, you might hate wolves and think they're just kind of stupid. They're a part of Age of Empires, right? They always have been. So I am going to show you guys the new Arabia real quick. So I have not actually seen this yet. go into random map, and then go into Arabia, generate, I think, just automatically for 2 players. Correct map size. Okay, this generation, it's pretty crappy for player 1. Woodlands are pretty far away. There's this big old hill in front of their base. The middle of the map has, like, 1 forest. The outsides of the maps don't really have many hills. It's like, there's just, like, so many hills in the center of the map. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Red player's base is, like, it's equally lousy. But, okay, we generate this one. Woodlands are still very far away. Like, these are some far woodlines, man. And it's like, okay, it's the same for every player, which I already droned on about that I'm not the biggest fan of. But yeah, it seems like you're still getting some very, very open and hard to defend Arabia maps. Like, oh man, look at this one. They have 3 woodlines, I guess, just kind of on the side. And this whole area is super open. That's pretty lousy for player 1 here. Yeah, it's still not great, to be honest, in my opinion. There's all these random hills in the middle and just like one tiny little forest. I would much rather just the resources be evenly distributed about the map. You know, at least insofar as that used to be the case with Old Arabia. But again, that is just my opinion. So other map changes looks like they're mostly just for the Empire Wars map, so good for that, I guess. Oh, except for runestones, forests have been pushed further away from players, and the size of forests surrounding the players has been reduced, so they're making runestones harder to wall as well. So trying to make it more like Arabia, I guess. Some lobby and matchmaking changes. Definitely some big ones here. If a player pauses the match in multiplayer and then resigns, disconnects, or otherwise closes the game, the match will now always unpause after a short time. So that was just kind of like an exploit that could happen, and now that's not a thing. The player's preferred and banned map choices for a matchmaking queue are now locked when they enter a queue. Lobby settings no longer reset between games hosted by the same player. I'm sure tournament players are going to like that one quite a lot. They don't have to, like, you know, go to the specific settings every single time. Fixed an issue of the lobby browser displaying incorrect information about the lobby that the player already joined before returning to the lobby browser. Boy. The lobby browser just needs a ton of changes. Empire Wars now bans maps okay, no one plays Quick Play. At least I don't play Quick Play. And I'm everyone. Ranked queue now continues instead of stopping if another player leaves from the found match. Okay. Here's the big one, guys. They even put it in bold. Alt+F4 queue dodging. Definitely, I think, a problem in the Age of Empires community, in the opinion of almost everyone. The issue is that there is no consensus on how to solve said problem. So this is their first swing at it, and I gotta give them props for at least doing something at this point, because they really do need to do something. So, what did they do? Included in this update an initial measure aimed at discouraging queue dodging. Players who Alt+F4 out of queues will receive progressive timeouts, and their ability to rejoin the queue will be affected depending on the frequency with which they disconnect to work around the matchmaking system. This is being deployed for the first time in this update, and will be monitoring the activity and feedback and all that stuff. So essentially, if you Alt+F4, you're going to get a small timeout before you can rejoin the queue. Personally, I don't think this really does a whole lot. I mean, I appreciate that they are at least trying, but it's like, if you really don't want to play a map, you're just not going to play the map. It's not like, oh, I just don't want to play the map, so... But I guess I'll play it now, because otherwise I can't play. I think it's going to be like, okay, either they just won't play, they'll still Alt+F4, and they just won't play another game of multiplayer, or they'll hop on an alt account and then play that way. Like, I don't know, but at least they're trying something, right? And I appreciate that. Some changes now with the AI. Some small pathfinding change with lumberjacks no longer turning idle after gathering a tree's resources, so that is a small little bug that is now fixed. And then there are a bunch of other smaller changes as well. Ongoing investigation, problems with multiplayer services, so there are always going to be problems with that, so they have an enhanced logging build that I think you can use. So I guess do that if you are interested or something. Crashes and freezes, which are always going to happen and always be good to fix. Some UI stuff as well, good to fix that. What's on the horizon? More co-op, so now the beta sticker is still in the UI, and that'll stay while we continue to take feedback and make small changes. So more co-op campaign coming, always good. Over the next few CUs, I community updates? I don't know. We're wrapping up and introducing missions from Tamerlane, Tariq, Saladin, and Alaric. So, good stuff there. And then follow up on Deathmatch leaving the ranked queue. Custom ranked Deathmatch lobbies are coming. So, good stuff there. I would like to see it sooner rather than later, but at least it's still going to happen, and they're saying that it's going to happen, so good stuff. Anyway, that is going to be it for this patch, guys. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think and what you thought were the most important changes, what was most exciting for you, what was the most, for you. Of course, whenever there's a new patch in Age of Empires, we all have to cross our fingers that there isn't going to be some weird game-breaking bug that happens. I don't know about that yet. This patch just went live, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. But regardless, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.